Welcome to Outside the Box with Asendia USA, a podcast educating US-based e-tailers on international shipping topics and how they can expand their global e-commerce footprint.
This is John Walsh again here with my partner, Nick Agnetti. We have a special guest joining us today, Dave Mays, CEO of Broadreach, an Asendia company, for this part of our conversation. Dave has a wealth of knowledge about Canada that's, I think, unsurpassed, right, Nick, and anybody else other than that, quite frankly, by far, right? He has a special focus on market-leading cross-border with a special focus on U.S. to Canada. Although Dave will talk about, he has also the ability with his product offering to do intra-Canada, which I think is something that is important to remind all our customers about as well. Dave works with us closely on all our opportunities working on Canada. Dave's background and knowledge has been paramount to our success of growing our business in Canada.
And so with Dave on, Dave is the best resource I've ever encountered when it comes to Canada. So I'm very excited that he's on with us today, not only to talk about, Asendia's northbound service option with our DDP network into Canada, but just the Canadian delivery market in general and what he's been doing, he and his team, the optimizations they've been doing and just really helping to improve delivery options into the nation of Canada.
Dave, one of the topics we want to talk to you about was when you get on the phone or Teams or whatever we're interacting with our client, you always talk about a lot of the challenges that you see of e-commerce shipping into Canada and intra-Canada. And is there anything like the customer feedback that you've been with us that is standing out more than others that you're seeing as an issue, like clearance, customs, cost, transits, visibility, anything in there that stands out more than others that you wanted to talk about with Star?
The reality is Canada's physically bolted on in the same continent, right next to us here in the U.S. Right. And it is the first, best, next international market for virtually every e-tailer that ships out of the U.S. Once you learn how to identify, create demand, build out the supply chain with partners, and ultimately get those packages delivered, then you start looking at other markets, other continents. The supply chains are very, very different. We can effectively cover Canada over the road or through ground options anywhere between 1 and 7 business days to 90+% of the country. And there is a similar divide east and west in Canada as there is in the US. About 75%, sometimes 80% of the orders, but about 75% of the population is east of Manitoba. And then the other 25 to 30% of the population is west. E-commerce orders generally, depending on the merchant, you're going to have a little bit lighter delivery profile to Quebec. Quebec is French-speaking. If you create a French-speaking site, you can identify, generate demand, and be highly successful. It's about 23% of the population. We see about 10% of the orders go to Quebec for standard U.S. cross-border shippers. So effectively, that's where that 70-30 comes in. With that being said, between the east and the west are what they call prairies, and that's just, you can see your dog run away for about a week, and you'll still be able to see that's how flat it is, and that's how far. And it's cold, and there's lots of geographic challenges in serving Canada, but there are some pretty interesting profiles related to the population and where they're located. About 80% of the Canadian population is within 100 miles of the U.S. border. But again, if you look at how long that border is, you're still talking about some significant east to west mileage.
So from a consumer in Canada, has anything changed in the last 20-some years you've been doing this?
For sure. There's no doubt that the branded, fully integrated B2B retail and B2C couriers in Canada, including the big integrated couriers here, FedEx, UPS. Purolator is the largest integrated courier in Canada. And there was a significant preference for a delivery with any of the large integrated couriers. I think that was a 20-year ago philosophy that has e-commerce has changed, the expectation, residential surcharges, delivery area surcharges. There was lots of surcharges associated with the integrated couriers getting to final mile residential addresses. They have changed for the better, and the market has also changed in terms of the expectation of alternate delivery providers. So technology has really allowed both us as a consolidator and forwarder to provide as good, if not better, tracking experiences than the integrated courier. So we're able to end-to-end not only manage from a communication and transportation standpoint, but the visibility is outstanding, and the customers really know and are comfortable with the expectation of delivery through a delivery partner.
I do want to talk a little bit specifically about what you've created, you and your team created with the Broadreach network, and how you guys are able to improve the customer experience over, let's say, something like an integrated courier like the FedEx or UPS, or even you mentioned Purelator. Could you talk to that for a couple minutes?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a careful description, and the reason I say that, well, first off, there's no formulas in shipping. There's nothing that's proprietary. There's nothing that we're doing that is an invention of some cutting edge service that no one's going to be able to replicate. But there are some best practices and some things that we do with our transport network. There are some ways that we clear customs, all forward thinking and compliant. There's bond utilization. There's all sorts of cross-dock and partner network connecting that we do to achieve the outcome that we have. And we want to continue to describe that. We want to continue to have merchants trust us, and we want to continue to beat the competition in terms of service quality. At the end of the day, we have the fewest number of touches, the fewest miles or kilometers traveled, and the lowest cost, most efficient network after 2 years for US to Canada straight away. So a very fresh approach. We really focused on middle mile. We focused on middle mile speed. We focused on getting to all the major cities in Canada, whether it's ground or air. We have a fantastic partnership with Air Canada that reaches anywhere between 8 and 12 major cities in Canada for an expedited product that's been very successful. We're working with these alternate delivery providers, moving times around to have preferential service picking up 1-2 days, depending on the province, depending on the U.S. origin shipping point. Again, all end to end in terms of not only custody, but also visibility and transparency to those packages. The customs clearance process, probably don't want to go into too much detail on this because we will definitely bore the listeners, but we have automated it entirely. We have bonded trucks and bonded facilities. We do an electronic release, and anytime there's an inspection, we rifle through what we call, containers that are marked with those parcels. We pull the held parcels, and everything else flows through. So even if there are inspections or holds or delays, it only would affect a small parcels that would be targeted. So we've built operation technology and a system to, we think, compete with even the express carriers. I mean, some of the markets out of the U.S. that we're getting service into Greater Toronto and or Eastern Canada, out of the Northeast in the U.S. are faster than you could get if you actually flew it on a plane that went through Memphis or Louisville and had it delivery by a purple tail or a brown van.
And now it's important to remind the listeners too, this is an entirely DDP network. So one, our focus with this network is improved customer delivery experience. But what would you say, and, I know this is just speaking to our network, and again, we'll get back to, and we'll continue to highlight Canada, holistically, but in our network, in terms of package weights, do you see any challenges when you between 1 to 2 pounds versus, let's say, and I know we're breaking this down pretty granular, but, 4 to 5, 6 pound packages, any benefits, pluses, minuses, things like that?
99.5% of the product that we're moving today with this fantastic ramp of volume with Asendia is well within that. Our average weight on a dimensional basis is somewhere between 3 and 4 pounds. Our average weight on an actual gravity weight is 1 to 2 pounds. And I expect that to go up. In my past life, we had higher average weights of parcels. But to be honest, in our transportation network, the efficiency of each of these trucks, we can get anywhere between 6,000 to 10,000 parcels per truck with the current profile of the Asendia client base. And we can really do amazing things when we have that level of efficiency on those trucks, that package count.
I know you're always looking to improve the customer experience. Is there anything else that you're seeing other than things like that? You've demonstrated just working with you and helping the customer that you are forward thinking. Is there anything else that you see on the horizon that can benefit and make the customer experience better?
Our network moves 7 days a week. Our warehouses are open up to 24 hours. There is no reason why every carrier provider and every merchant shouldn't be able to commit 7-day delivery. We are going to have 3 solid levels of service, and even our slowest / most price efficient ground service is going to be smoking fast relative to where it's starting and where it's going to. But really engineering both a very cost-effective expedited solution, which we are doing now, and even engineering an express service to compete with true airport-to-airport final mile deliveries on through integrated courier network. This couldn't happen in the States, but our delivery profile, unbelievably, is somewhere between 20 and 28% into what we would call Southern Ontario or Greater Toronto, depending on how you carve up the map. We are able to get next-day service out of many major cities in the Northeast and Upper Midwest. And I'm not going to tell you exactly how we do it. I'm sure some of you know, but the bottom line is we are going to compete with anywhere between 20 and 28% of the total deliveries in Canada on a next day basis out of major centers in the upper Midwest and Northeast. And this is something that has really pushed a lot of our competitors to rethink how they're doing things. And I think it's an important feature of our service that is a differentiator between us and our competitors.
There seemed to be like a misconception, you need something in Canada. But you said there were benefits not to do that, right?
So it really depends on somewhere between 8 and 12 answers to really important questions. Right. For example, what's your order velocity? How many orders are you shipping a day? Where are they shipping from the States? What are the order value? What are the commodities? Where are they made? Right? So what HTS code drives what duty or not? And what are the value of the goods when you cross the border, bring them in? At what duty are they applied? What value would drive duty? So if you bring product into Canada and you clear it on a cost of goods basis or wholesale basis or intercompany basis, you're going to pay less duty as the value is lower. With that being said, fuel, right, labor, warehousing, everything's more expensive, especially in Toronto. And Toronto is a top 5 city in North America in terms of size of population. It's also very expensive. Vancouver, one of the most expensive cities in the world. Alberta's not cheap. If you're going to go in Canada with infrastructure, you want volume, you want a very deep, not only logistics review, but financial review. And what you can always do is go into Canada at a future point in time based on understanding the market better. To start shipping from the States to Canada is usually 90% of the companies do that. And again, a lot of this is product driven.
I mean, obviously you can do some sort of fulfillment, right?
Our staff that I keep referring to, has experience in every product and service that we're talking about: trade services, compliance, technology, pick, pack, fulfillment, the whole bit.
Well, I think that's it, Dave. Do you have anything else to add before we close it out? Really appreciate you taking that time with me. I know you're busy, so thank you very much.
Maybe once a year we should do this and I can give you network updates and fun stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, Dave's the man. He knows what's up when it comes to Canada. So
yeah, it was really good to have him on there.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
If you want to support our podcast, the number one thing you can do is share it on your social media and tag Asendia.
That helps us get the word out, and we really appreciate it.
Be sure to subscribe and download our podcast. If you want to learn more about today's topic, email us at ecommerce.usa@asendia.com and check back frequently for new discussions on e-commerce shipping to Canada and worldwide.